For those not aware, the American Declaration of Independence, which is not a legally binding document, but was the foundational document for the country, opens with the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And it goes on from there. Note that this is a foundational document for the United States. It has massive cultural significance well beyond the establishment of the American state. This is something that has influenced the way Americans see the world, fundamental aspects of our culture, our political expectations, and all manner of other things. It's why it's so eyebrow-raising when an American politician who is allegedly Catholic says that it's alarming that Americans believe, or to hear some Americans believe our rights come from a creator and not the government. It is an authoritarian, nay, dare I say, totalitarian view to say that our rights come from the government. The U.S. Constitution, and especially in its Bill of Rights, recognizes that the rights don't come from the state; they come from God. It doesn't explicitly say God in the Constitution, but it does assume you naturally have these rights, though they certainly don't come from the state. Your protected rights of speech, religion, assembly, self-defense, and other things are not granted to you in the document. They are handcuffs against the state from infringing on rights the document and those who wrote it and those who are supposed to enforce it assume you have by very nature of being a human being. So it's always a bit alarming to hear a high-profile American president who came very close to becoming vice president of the United States. In fact, strictly speaking, Senator Kaine was the vice president nominee to run with Hillary Rodham Clinton for president of the United States in 2016. And you might remember she won the popular vote against President Donald Trump. Meaning, this man helped convince a majority of the American population, by a hair's breadth, to put him in the White House, to put him as a one heartbeat away from being president of the United States. I'm going to not rehash a lot of what he said, because a lot of this is not the newest, but Bishop Barron did respond to this, and we'll talk more about what he had to say. But for just a breather here, for a refresher, the headline from the Washington Stand, Senator Kaine claims rights come from government, not God. What government gives you, ladies and gentlemen, government can take away. All it takes is an ideological shift in government. If you need any reminder of that, look at the dramatic change in immigration policy and enforcement from previous administrations to the way it is now under the Trump administration. If your rights come from the government, they can be taken by the government, by the will of legislators, or even worse, by the will of unelected bureaucrats in the administrative state, who can just make rules about how policies are implemented that strip you of your fundamental, basic human rights. If the rights come from the state, they can be taken by the state, and you have no recourse to do anything about it, except to maybe elect people who are like-minded with you to restore what you believe are your rights. Rights become a manifestation under Tim Kaine's understanding of things of the popular will. This is not a Catholic idea in the slightest. It's not even an American idea. This is something else entirely. I'm not going to go over the whole article here. We will go over some of it. Quoting the article, "The notion that our rights do not come from our laws or our government should make people very, very nervous," warned U.S. Senator Tim Kaine during a recent confirmation hearing in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for 5 Trump nominees. The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. Kaine pounced on the opening remarks of Riley Barnes, who was nominated to become Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. In his opening remarks, Barnes endeavored to present a coherent account of human rights, citing Secretary of State Marco Rubio's first speech to State Department employees. "We are a nation," quoting him, "founded on a powerful principle, and that powerful principle is that all men are created equal, because our rights come from God, our creator, not from our laws, not from our governments. We are a nation of individuals, each made in the image of God and possessing an inherent dignity, Barnes added, following through on the theological underpinning of America's founding philosophy. This is a truth that our founders understood as essential to American self-government. Our enduring values aren't an endless list of rights that people create and change and form to meet their own needs or desires, he continued. These values aren't identity politics. They are the historic, natural rights that we have as individuals, pursuing life, liberty, and happiness in this world. For rights to be untethered from this core principle is to make them mere sentiments easily manipulated by authoritarians and bad actors. End quote. And Tim Kaine doesn't believe this. Remarkable for someone who used to be as high profile as he was. He's not exactly in the public eye as much as he used to be, now that the 2016 election is practically ancient history in American electoral politics. But try to wrap your mind around the fact that an American elected official believes our governments come from the state. It's an amazing thing. Truly amazing. Utterly un-American and utterly un-Christian. Our rights as we understand them, and we might disagree theologically on rights, especially when we compare them to duties, but whatever it is we have in that realm, we are born with them. They come to us from God. For the rebuttal to this, we go to Bishop Robert Barron, who posted this to X. And I'm just going to let him speak for himself here. Now, I've never hidden that I'm not the biggest fan of Bishop Robert Barron on a lot of issues pertaining, strictly speaking, to traditional liturgy, traditional ecclesiology, the role of Vatican II, and traditionalism in general. Not the biggest fan. But tell me where he's wrong here in rebuking Senator Tim Kaine. He posted this to his X account.
Hey everybody, it's Bishop Barron. I just feel obligated to speak out against something that I came across today, and I just found it so outrageous and really so dangerous to our democracy. It was Senator Tim Kaine at I think it was a Senate confirmation hearing, and he was actively contesting the view that our rights come from God and not from the government. And he said it's very dangerous if you claim that our rights don't come from laws and from government. Well, what struck me was he's a senator from Virginia. Virginia was a state of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, both of whom took it as fundamental to our democracy that our rights don't come from the government, they come from God. So we know the familiar words of Jefferson, right? That we are created equal, created by God. We're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You see, so basic to Jefferson was the fact that rights come first. They're not invented by the government. Rather, government exists, and remember this language from the prologue of the Declaration, to secure these rights. Doesn't invent them, doesn't ground them. It secures them, it recognizes them as objectively coming from God, and then its whole purpose is to secure them, to serve them. Think too of that familiar word from Jefferson, inalienable. These rights are inalienable. Now why? Because they come not from the government, but from God. If the government creates our rights, it can take them away. If the government is responsible for our rights, well, then it can change them. You think this never happens, you don't know much about the history of the 20th century. Look at the great totalitarian systems of the 20th century that followed from the denial of God and denial of rights coming from God. And so those rights became eminently alienable whenever it served the purposes of the government. It just strikes me as extraordinary that a major American politician wouldn't understand this really elemental part of our system. God help us. I mean that literally. God help us. If we say our rights are coming to us from the government, that gives the government indeed godlike power. We are, and this is not pious boilerplate, it's basic democracy. We are a nation under God. Lincoln says, the Gettysburg Address, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. Again, that's not just pious declaration. That's a very important political statement. We are a government that recognizes the objective rights that come from outside of government. Government exists to serve them and to secure them. Well, the fact that this rhetoric, and it's popped up elsewhere too in recent years, I spoke out against it a little while ago, is troubling. Because it's a fruit, I would say, of the increasing marginalization and privatization of religion, if not outright hostility to it. But see, everybody, religion is elemental. It's basic to our democracy. So I'm speaking out against this statement I think is really dangerous, both as a Catholic bishop and as a proud American who's very happy to follow Thomas Jefferson. And God bless you.
And I ask you, where is he wrong? I find no fault in anything he said. Historically, he's correct. Wherever you've seen the mantle of rights being granted by the state, taken up by a society, disaster has always followed. Always. I guess that's the great promise of the modern progressive movement. And think that this man is the product of a Catholic education. Pray for him. He needs your help. Let me know what you think of this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps too. And if you've ever thought about supporting the work we do here at Return to Tradition, there are options in the description box below. Patreon, Subscribestar, that join button, or subscribe plus button as it now is called. But all these options were asked for by viewers of the channel and does greatly help keep the mission going. Please pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.